Hi, welcome to another pick a card reading. In today's reading, we are asking what the F is happening? What the F is going on? What? Huh? That's the question today. I'm keeping it straightforward, blunt. You know how this works. I don't have to hold your hand through this. I don't have to baby you through this process. We have 3 groups to pick from. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. Let's get you some close-ups. We have little pendants for each group and some color-coordinated cards. This card says Fresh Hyacinth, Rosalind's Periwinkle Blue, Blue Phlox. You might want to take a look at the numbers if you can see them, if anything stands out for you. Look at how beautifully this matches. This pendant on its own doesn't even, it looks kind of blue. Let's look at that. Isn't she a beaut? Pretty sure that's moonstone. But then when you put it on this, oh my God, like made for one another, aren't they? That is group 1. Okay, can you tell it's a different vibe today? I don't care, I'm going with the vibe. If this is your first time here, welcome. It's a weird one. We're gonna see what comes out. This is group 2. Look at this. I'm just obsessing over the way that I match these cards. Usually when I use the color cards, I shuffle them out. Today, I picked them deliberately, so I'm sure there's a reason for that. There always is. This is Sea Glass Green, Pastoral Jade. I butchered that. And Forum Green. And let me give you a close-up of this pendant brooch. Look at that. It seems like there's a storm brewing in there. It's like a whole nother world in there. That is group number 2. And then group 3. This is your combination. Your colors are Watermelon Smoothie, Pinkety Pink. Wow, groundbreaking. And Ruby Blush. And then this is your pendant. This is a garnet flower. Gorgeous. What a star. Quite literally. Okay, so these are your 3 groups. I'm going to give you a moment to either zone in or zone out, whichever you need, to determine which group is calling you the most incessantly. Timestamps are in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading to take a look at what the F is going on. See you there. Hi, group 1, this is your reading if you chose this beautiful combination. I really feel like this makes sense for group 1. This is giving firstborn energy. This is giving me first. This is giving I showed up early. Okay, let me stop reading you. Well, actually, let me start reading you. We are going to put this right up here so that you know you're in the right reading, and then we are going to get right into it. I did think the structure through this time. Exciting. So we are taking a look at what the F is going on. What the F is going on. That could pertain to really anything, whether that is an established situation, a connection that you're confused about, or whether that is you trying to figure out what is going on in your life right now. So this can really, apply it where it fits. What we're going to do is we're going to pull a couple of tarot cards to get your point of view of what is it that is your perspective right now, and then we're going to get an overview, which is kind of like a zoomed out perspective of what the universe, what spirit, what God, whatever you subscribe to, what they see, and sort of we can then see the context of what's your perspective versus what is going on, and then we're going to close it out with some oracle cards to get you some guidance through that process. So we're going to start off. Actually, I want to use this deck for Spirit's point of view. So this deck is what we're using for your point of view. We're going to get 3 cards. Spirit, what's going on for group 1? Can we get their perspective, their point of view? What is it that needs to be understood at this time? What are they seeing? What's their point of view for group 1? Okay. There it is. I was gonna say, immediately I'm feeling some annoyance from your energy, some frustration, and the cards don't really show that, but then at the bottom of the deck we have the King of Swords, and there it is. Whoop, there it is. So we have the Two of Wands, we have the King of Pentacles, and we have the Seven of Pentacles. And I feel like the annoyance that I'm getting from you is that you feel perhaps for the first time that you have something, some kind of resource, some kind of hope, some kind of energy, some kind of material source. For the first time, you have somewhere to put it. You have something to invest, not necessarily for the first time, but for some of you, it feels like for the first time, because the frustration, I think, has to do with this feeling of like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know where to put this. There's a lot of potential ahead of you, and it feels like you have been so focused on grounding yourself, on like establishing some sort of security, that the potential is actually annoying you. The potential of like, well, what am I going to do with this? And at the same time, you're feeling some kind of frustration around impatience, because it's almost like you would prefer to skip a step or to fast forward through the next step, because the next step I think is going to have a lot to do with trying things, trial and error, and understanding what's the feedback that you're getting. You may have taken a long time to figure out your feelings in something, or to figure out your hopes for something, and there's something shifting. And with this Two of Wands, I'm also getting there's a lot of frustration with the world around you. So whether that is your community, your family, your friends, or whether that is on a larger scale happenings in the world, it's kind of like, well, I just finally got my shit figured out, and suddenly the world is falling apart. Like, this isn't fair. There's some kind of frustration here around fairness. You're waiting on something, and yet you've already... It's like I see an imagery of like being crouched in front of a stove, in front of an oven, and waiting for something to finish. And that frustration, that the waiting period is causing a lot of frustration. I don't necessarily see it causing any insecurity. I think you're very sure, but with that King of Pentacles, it could be that it's not so much that you're like, oh, there may be an air of entitlement here. I don't necessarily feel that it is misplaced, but it's causing you to have an attitude while you wait. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you put a cake in the oven and you're like, oh, I know this one is going to be good. I can feel it in my bones. Like, this is going to be the most amazing cake. And so it's like the pressure of that is what's really causing a lot of impatience here. So it's like the entitlement is like, yeah, you've earned it, but at the same time, entitlement isn't helpful. Okay, we're going to get a couple of tarot cards to see what Spirit's perspective is right now. Spirit, what's going on? What the F is going on for group one? We have the Page of Cups. We're going to get 5 cards. We have the King of Pentacles. I like that. We have the Wheel of Fortune. We have the King of Swords. Okay, I like this because it seems like we're pretty much... The fact that we have similar energies coming out, because we saw the King of Swords at the bottom of the deck, indicates that there is a lot of alignment here. And then we have the Tower. Ooh, don't let your impatience ruin a good thing, is what's coming through. Yeah, at the bottom of the deck, we have the World card. I'm also hearing Rome was not built in a day. I can feel you rolling your eyes. Knock it off. There's so much impatience here. Rome was not built in a day, okay? So the fact that we have the King of Pentacles and the King of Swords coming up twice in your perspective, again, remember I said there's an air of entitlement, but I feel like it's earned. Spirit is confirming that because from their point of view, they're like, yeah, you've showed up and you understand what's coming. It's just that you have to wait your turn with the Wheel of Fortune. This is literally giving me like the oven clock, right? You cannot manipulate the sands of time. That is so dramatic. But with the Page of Cups here and the Tower, this is giving me don't ruin a good thing just out of impatience, because the Page of Cups is emotionally immature energy, and it's very much like emotional tantrum, and it's like, but I want it now. I literally just stomped my feet. And then with the Tower card, I'm getting that this could cause Tower energy, but I'm also getting I think I'm also getting an air of, it's like the chicken or the egg, what came first. You stomping your foot causing some kind of shakeup, or are you feeling the shakeup and you're sensing it? You know how dogs get anxious when there's an earthquake coming? You're sensing a shakeup. And because you've been so focused on your stability, you can feel this wheel turning. I'm hearing like the creaks of like an old wheel like starting to turn. And because of that, you're getting anxious because on a very subconscious, the Page of Cups is very intuitive, but intuitive in a way that cannot quite translate what it is receiving. Not like, for example, the Queen of Cups or the King of Cups. And so you're receiving some kind of intuitive impulses. You can feel something shifting, but you can't see it shifting. And so you're feeling really frustrated. That's what the F is going on. Which to me then looks like you just gotta hold. You just gotta hold on to where you're at, the vision that you have, the direction that you're going in. So whether this has to do with career matters, whether this has to do with life changes, relationship changes, there's something about being really determined about what you know your worth is and holding on to the knowledge that that will prevail. Let's get some energies on this. I'm also going to get one singular tarot card to kind of sum this up. We have the 7th house, we have Scorpio energy, and we have Mercury. So the 7th house is all about contracts. And this makes sense because, again, I said that you have something to invest. You have something to choose. And you recognize a lot of potential. So for some of you, this has to do with the fact that you have finally grown into recognizing your own worth. And you're like, well, now that I know my own worth, where are all the contracts, meaning business contracts or romantic relationships? Where is it? Where is it? I know my worth now. I've declared my worth. I stand by my worth. Where is it? You gotta wait. You gotta wait. And I know that's so frustrating. But again, with Scorpio energy and with Mercury, you're very much picking up on very subtle shifts. And you're frustrated because you can't see it take place, but you can feel it. But that is sort of the beauty of it. The feeling is the confirmation. Can we get one singular card? What the f is going on for group 1? We have the 4 of Pentacles. Yeah, this is all about holding. This is all about foundation. This is all about knowing what it is that you're building towards. This card says dogma, conviction, devotion. Conviction, stay strong in your conviction. You know. And just because you haven't seen proof yet doesn't mean that it's not happening, because you can feel it. And I'm not sure, it's going to be different for many of you, because for some of you, the chicken came first. For some of you, the egg came first, because it has to do with either you stomped your foot and declared something, and then that created like a shockwave, or your stomping and the shockwave coincides. Okay, let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, what is going on for group 1? We have the Poet. See, that's the thing. The communication, the information, something that you're getting is not clear. So either some situation has not been made, and that's where your frustration with the King of Swords is coming from, because you're like, I just want to know. I just want to know one way or another. And the information that you're receiving is very intuitive, and it's very much up to interpretation. It's a situation where, as of right now, you have to read between the lines in order to get any information that can help you maintain your security. The information that you receive or do not receive doesn't have any impact on your security to begin with. It frustrates you because you want confirmation. You want confirmation of, yes, this is the right thing to do. Yes, this is the right thing to invest in. But you already know. You don't need that confirmation. Or I should say, you've already received the confirmation. The Venom. I'm getting strongly with the Venom. Yeah, see, we have the Sword at the bottom of the deck. I'm telling you, there's something here where it's like you already know the answer. And for some of you, you will have to kind of pay attention to how you're feeling as I'm saying this, because this is going to go in 2 different directions. For some of you, you're actually considering pulling out your investments. Some of you are thinking about leaving a job. Some of you are thinking about leaving a marriage, a partner, a friendship behind, because you're like, my investment is not being honored here. And I see that, and you know that, you feel that. For some of you, it's about putting investments into something. Either case, with the King of Pentacles here, it doesn't change the fact that you already have all the information that you need. It may not be literal writing on the wall, but you know. We have multiple kings, the same kings come out. This is all about being confident in taking action based on the knowledge that you have, but you are not confident in deciphering the emotional knowledge that you have. That's the problem here. So you're constantly seeking proof. Which ones do we want to use? Let's go this one. Spirit, what the F is going on for group 1? What is going on? One more. We have noise and freedom. I'm telling you, you're breaking free from something. So again, for some of you, it is about like, oh, should I put my investments in here, or should I pull my investments out of here? You've already received the confirmations and the clear guidance that you need. You just have to focus on eliminating the noise and reading between the lines here. And I think the most difficult part of that is that you have to connect more with this Page of Cups and spend more time with your emotions, because again, you're very focused on proof. You're very focused on material things and logic. Spirit is saying that you're not, because look at the contrast, right? Of like, Okay, when it comes to material things, you're showing up as a king. When it comes to logical things, you're showing up as a king. When it comes to emotional things, you're showing up as a page. And so that's where your confidence is leaking. You have a leak in your system, and it's leaking on the emotional plane. And if you were to fix that, if you were to address that, then this venom card is connecting to that leak. Then you're able to extract that venom and feel more stable in the period of waiting or in the period of making choices that impact your stability. Some of you are deciding to leave a job. Some of you are deciding to leave a partner. Others of you are just trying to navigate how to feel secure in a world that is constantly shifting and constantly changing, because there is this attitude, remember I said that in the beginning, of just when I got my stuff figured out, now this is changing, my surrounding is changing, I have to move. Like there's this annoyance of like, I just settled in. That's okay, you settled into yourself, so you have the ability to take that security with you, to embody that security so that you don't feel like it's being taken away from you. Again, 4 of Pentacles here is what we're talking about. Holding on to your foundation, internalizing your foundation. For group 1, what is an energy for group 1 to release, to let go of? We have Storyteller. And then what is an energy for group 1 to embrace, to embody more of? We have God. Okay, so what I'm getting here is that you have been putting a lot of energy into sort of making yourself okay under certain circumstances. Like, oh, this is okay because of this. As long as you can like bend the logic around a situation, you're like, okay, I can feel secure. And Spirit is guiding you towards recognizing that you can always feel secure, because with God, I'm getting more so, because God is it's just an archetype. And so you can replace the word God with universe, you can replace it with unity, divinity. And so I'm getting this feeling of, with Storyteller, you are just one figure. You are one cog in the machine. With God, you are the entire machine. Okay, so with Storyteller, what to move away from is this idea of, oh, and then I have to do this and I have to do that in order to, like, there's something to protect and to fight and to sort of convince yourself of, versus with God, it's kind of, there's this feeling of, it's okay. It's okay. Because you already know. There's a confidence of knowledge in this. And here you're really trying to convince yourself. This is knowing, this is convincing. For group 1, what is going on? We have discernment. And then at the bottom of the deck, we have fear. Okay, yeah. You're really recognizing what is worth stressing out over. And thereby recognizing when is it time to take your investments somewhere else. So overall, I would say that what the F is going on for you is that you are easing in, shifting into a new foundation, and that new foundation is requiring you to be more discerning where you put your time, where you put your energy, where you put your resources. In order to do that with confidence, you need to put some attention towards your emotional attachments, because otherwise you're going to hesitate. You're going to hesitate and you're going to blame everyone else. You're going to hesitate and you're going to blame the universe because you're going to feel like I'm just waiting on divine timing. When in reality, the cake is ready to be taken out of the oven, but you are so caught up in some kind of emotional immaturity or a lack of being able to recognize emotional discernment of, okay, now is the time, that then you overcook the cake. Any last advice? What is an energy that Group 1 is currently embodying most? We have hawk. I'm thinking of the way that a hawk circles, right? And very much connecting to this King of Swords energy and having their eye on prey. Very much like, okay, let me do one more circle. Let me do one more circle. Let me do one more circle. What is an energy for Group 1 to embody more of, to grow towards? We have the snake. One more circle. One more circle, but it's different. Because with this snake, that one more circle is, see, with the hawk, it's outside energies that you're focused on. Here, it's internal energies, and it has a lot to do with communicating with your higher self, because here, this is very much focused with these colors. We're focused on solar plexus energies and root chakra energies, which is very much about what we've talked about so far in terms of trying to establish your foundation, right? And trying to maintain the foundation that's taken you so long to establish. With these colors over here, we're talking about the throat chakra, we're talking about the heart chakra, and we're talking about the crown chakra. So very much connecting to, you need to work on this emotional line. And I'm thinking literally like a telephone line. You're very connected to your root chakra, you're very connected to your solar plexus chakra, and yet your solar plexus chakra is kind of blocked because you're not connected enough to your throat chakra or your heart chakra. And here we're talking about the ability to communicate with your emotions, to take your emotions as a board member. Imagine there's a table and, you know, the elements of you that get to make decisions are all the King of Pentacles and the King of Swords, which is logic and your ability to navigate the material world. Your emotional, you're missing an emotional board member, essentially. And that's what the F is going on for you right now. So that's really kind of what it hinges on. This is really what's going to make the difference in allowing you to be more confident in making decisions and not feeling like you then have to blame or explain something about yourself with that storyteller card, right? There's if you lean towards bringing more attention towards this Page of Cups so that it can up level and be more in tune with the information that you are receiving, allow you to free yourself from a lot of this noise, that will allow you to be honestly a force, because you'll be able to pull out your investments and put them somewhere else with such confidence that you won't feel like you have to point your finger at anyone else in terms of waiting around, because I think that's kind of what's happening right now, right? We talked about that. You're feeling like you're waiting, and Spirit is like, we're waiting on you. Sorry, but they said Uno reverse. We're waiting on you. We're waiting on you. You don't even. It's kind of like you're. No, I do not mean to infantilize you whatsoever. But this is just the imagery that I'm seeing. But it's kind of like a kid that is so excited because it can't wait to go to like a birthday party or something, right? And it's so excited and it's like, come on, it like wants its family to be ready, and the parents are like, you're refusing to let us help you put on your shoes, and we can't go if you don't put your shoes on. So, you're either going to have to put on your shoes yourself or let us put on the shoes. But in any case, we can't go until you do this, and you're throwing a tantrum. Again, that's what's happening in like the storyline that I'm seeing. Not saying that is what's happening exactly with you. But there is, the word came up a couple times. There is qualities of an emotional tantrum here. And I think it kind of puts you in a position of like, oh my God, this is so unfair. And why hasn't anything happened? Well, it hasn't happened because you're ready and yet you're not. And I can only imagine how extremely frustrating that is. But yeah, get in touch with your emotions a little bit more, get in touch with your intuition some more, and build that line of communication so that you can trust it, so that you know when to take action. Because you're ready to take action, but you're waiting on external confirmations to take action in some direction. And meanwhile, the external spirit, universe, God, is waiting for you to take action. But you're waiting on confirmation, and they're like, we've sent you plenty of confirmation. You should know which direction to take, but you won't know until you trust yourself. And that's what you got to work on here. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that it resonates. I hope that it's constructive. And I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. If you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so only on my website. The link is in the description below. Other than that, see you next time. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading. If you chose these lovely greens, we're going to set this right up here. And then let me give you a close-up of your pendant. Because look at her. Okay, you can do it, camera. I believe in you. If I could hold still. Wow. Can we do it? Nope. Sorry, I'm being annoying. All right. We're going to set this right down here so you know you're in the right reading, and then we're going to get right into it. So we are asking, what the F is happening? This can apply to pretty much every area, every area of your life. This can be about a job situation. This can be about a connection. This can be about just life in general. If you just need a little bit of direction of what the F is happening, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull 3 tarot cards to see your perspective right now. And then we're going to pull from a different deck a few more tarot cards to get Spirit, God, Universe, the Divines, whatever you subscribe to get their perspective. And we'll see how those two overlap or do not overlap. And then we'll pull some oracle cards to get some guidance on how to manage what the F is going on. So, Spirit, for Group 2. What's going on for Group 2? What is their perspective in whatever it is that we are about to talk about? We have the Page of Cups. Oh, we got all 3 of them. The High Priestess at the bottom of the deck. Okay. We have the Page of Cups, we have the 4 of Swords, and we have the Fool card. It feels like you have been receiving some synchronicities, you have been receiving some signs that are pushing you out of the nest, that are pushing you into a direction, and you're just like, I'd rather not. I feel a lot of hesitancy here, and yet with the High Priestess at the bottom of the deck, you're very aware of what you need to be doing, and you kind of don't want to, it feels like. You may be lacking motivation, you may be lacking direction. In terms of the swords, you're feeling like, I don't have enough information, but you feel a desire, an intuitive push, especially with the High Priestess. The Page of Cups, indicates to me that this might be kind of fresh, this might be kind of new, and yet the High Priestess is telling me that this is something that is very connected with you, that is very, you're being challenged to trust something here, and you feel like you don't have enough information to trust it. This could be in regards to a particular person, a connection, but this could also be in terms of a desire, a passion that you have. So whether this is a passion to pursue a particular career, or there's just something where it's like there's not much on the surface, but I'm telling you, this is an iceberg. There's so much under the surface that you will eventually uncover, with the High Priestess being at the bottom of the deck here. You will eventually, it's kind of like you have to start pulling. There's something that's piquing your curiosity, and you have to start pulling in order to see how far it goes. But you are very hesitant with this Four of Swords. You're like, no, I'd rather wait for more information. I'd rather get clear on where it is that I'm going. And in the meantime, with the Fool card, I also see you seeking out distractions, because you're like, I don't know that I want to take that leap. There's a lack of faith here, and I'm not sure if it's a lack of faith in yourself, or if it's a lack of faith in others. Let's see, what is Spirit's perspective here? We're gonna get 5 cards on what the fuck is going on. I said it. I said it very quietly. I don't know if I get punished by YouTube for saying it, so that's why I've been trying to avoid it. There's a squirrel outside my window. We have the Ace of Pentacles. And I do want to say, I didn't say it, but I saw it. You know. I'm telling you, you know, but you don't trust right now. The squirrel also has a nut in its mouth. Just wanted to share that. We have the Four of Wands. You're being called towards something. We have the Tower. We have the Temperance card. I'm hearing Ready or Not by the Fugees. Ready or not, here I come. Gonna find you. That's a threat. with the Six of Swords. That imagery just felt like a threat a little bit. And make you want me. Ready or not, here I come. Ah, the Chariot. Okay. All right. So for some of you, this is a very significant connection that is waiting in the wings eventually. But you have to want it, and you have to be willing to trust in outside energies in order to be open to it. This can be a very significant romantic connection. This can be a very significant friendship, platonic connection. But I do see that you are feeling like a little, you're seeing the beginning of something, and you are retreating because you recognize that the beginning of that is going to require you to take a leap of faith. Now, this can also have to do with career, of course, because we have the Ace of Pentacles, but I'm getting a strong emotional component here. So if we are talking about career, it would be more so like your passion, and whether you want to pursue your passion. This is something very sacred to you. And so the sacred aspect is, I think, your heart. I think, especially because we have all the greens here, right? That is heart chakra energy. So that totally makes sense. And then even the fact that I said it looks like a storm in there. There's a storm brewing in your heart, and that sounds so corny, but I'm sorry, I had to say it. There's a storm brewing, and it's kind of like you can see the clouds building, and you're like, oh no, and that's why we have the Tower here. The Tower is not always negative, right? It's just very impactful. But the fact that we have the Tower coming out with the Four of Wands and the Temperance card is beautiful. The Temperance card is all about finding balance and equilibrium within the whole, within a system that pertains to not just yourself. So it's not about balance within yourself, but maintaining balance with the world around you. And with the Four of Wands, we're also talking about balance. We're talking about foundations that pertain to celebration and excitement and building for the future. And yet we have 4-4 here, and you're very focused on like, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that. Now with the Six of Swords is about moving on from mental strife, moving on with it's kind of like, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. When life gives you can I talk, please? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? And so there's something that is very beneficial to you in the long run, but you're having a reaction to it that is making it feel bitter. This is bittersweet. And this may have to do with the fact that you have to leave behind some kind of freedom with the Fool, right? And so you feel like, no, I'd rather just go back and avoid this. I'd rather just like, this is avoidance with the Fool here. And the Six of Swords is kind of giving me this feeling of like, that's okay. You don't have to judge yourself for that, but you do have to learn from it. You do have to take the knowledge, like the conflict that you're feeling internally. The fact that we have swords coming out in the divine's perspective as well is telling me that you are meant to think about this logically. And even if that is slowing you down and building up some kind of defenses, there's something where Spirit is saying that's okay, because any other way you would just be ignoring an aspect of yourself, or you would just be denying something, you would just be repressing something. So with the Temperance card here, this is part of the process, but part of that process is to let that process close out. Okay? Because with the Ace of Pentacles, there is a very significant opportunity here. And again, you know this. You know that it's a very significant opportunity. It's just that you don't trust your knowledge in this, and you don't trust that it's going to be good. With this Tower card, I'm also getting this feeling of there's a fear that change inherently is bad, but I see a change for the better here. I see improvements. But your inability to predict the outcome is making you feel like, nope, it's just change, and that makes me want to slow down. Makes me want to slow my roll. I'm going to pull one card from this deck to get an overall energy and see what the F is going on for group 2. Spirit, what the F is going on for group 2? What's going on for group 2? We have the Page of Swords. And the Page of Swords, I read this deck very differently. Yeah, we have the 8 of Wands at the bottom of the deck here. I read this deck very differently. First of all, it's a Tarot and Oracle deck combined, and I read it much more. I have my own meanings for the imageries here. And this Page of Swords has a lot to do with being in tune with your intuition for me. It says disposition, tendencies, governing principle. But because this deck has star constellations on it. This has a part of Pisces on it. It says Pisces Austrinios. To me, this is all about the ability to receive intuitive knowledge, and when it is connected to a page, sometimes the more we know, the less likely we're able to take action, because we are bogged down by analysis paralysis, and sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? The idea of when you don't know your limitations, you just try and you learn and you find out where your limitations are, versus if somebody tells you, hey, these are where your limitations are, you automatically cap your curiosity in trying. That is actually a concept. I'm thinking back to a book that I read, and I'm trying to get it, but it is there are some sort of studies that have shown that experiments where people are told, like, oh, you can only, like, if somebody is told beforehand, like, hey, this is what's possible, or this is what the average is, people in the experiment will just live up to the average. But if they're not told what the average is or what the cap is, they exceed the average. Okay, now let's roll these dice. Give us some energies here. We have the 8th house, we have Jupiter energy, and we have Aquarius energy. So the 8th house is the house of what is out of our control. And that makes a lot of sense here. And with Aquarius energy, we're talking about transcendence. And with Jupiter energy, we're talking about expansion. Yeah, there's some expansion ahead of you. And it has everything to do with you needing to trust in opening yourself up to an opportunity that is going to shift a lot of things for you. And you are just sort of freaking out. You're freaking out and therefore distracting yourself and trying to buy yourself some time. And I think the time is now. Meaning the time for the shift is now, which is really interesting because I got sort of similar energies in group 1, very, very different attitude, but also shifts. And they were very impatient, and you are very avoidant. Group 1 was like, when is this happening? When is this happening? And you're like, I'm cool. I don't need this to change. And yet you want to, because you know. So don't lie to me. Don't you lie to me. Let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, what the F is going on for group 2? The unseen. You are much more aware of what's ahead of you than you are willing to admit. Truly. I almost feel like group 1 wishes they could see what you see. Because they had a real hard time recognizing what was right in front of them. And you recognize it, but you're trying to avoid it. And the heart, absolutely. Absolutely. And look at this. Oh, we have the sustainer at the bottom of the deck. Just want to point that out. But look at the heart. Look at these 2 people in a boat. Very much connected to the original imagery of the 6 of Swords. You know what? I'm kind of feeling tempted to read some of the things that the heart entry says, because I haven't had this deck for very long, so bit by bit I'm reading some of these cards, although I prefer reading them intuitively on my own. It says, the home, the center, the throne. It is possible from an imaginal point of view to sense the heart as a place. Either we are there within the realm of expansion and compassion, or we have drifted somewhere else. There is no in-between. It is common for us to leave this archetypal center without realizing it, as the world, with its seductive twists and turns, offers us frequent departure. We may even become a stranger to the landscape of the heart, leaving it vacant for long stretches of time. The seat of the heart is often reclaimed by nature, music, dance, and the presence of children or animals. This card encourages us to move past the layers of life's tangles and knots and enter the wild and sacred center of the self. The most precious throne in the galaxy is awaiting your return. Oh, wow. Jesus. I also like that this tower is pink, and that is connecting here. You are avoiding a truth of your heart. You are avoiding a truth, and this either has to do, again, with a passion. It is something that is, it's making me think of The Beating Heart, which is an Edgar Allan Poe story, right? And that has a lot to do with regret and with remorse. So don't let it get to that point. First of all, don't do all that. If you're not familiar with the story, you should go look it up. Also, a very famous Simpsons episode covers that. So if you don't want to read it, just go look up that Simpsons episode. I don't know why that came through. Somebody here needed that. Anyways, that story has a lot to do with regret and denial as well. And so there's something here where you can run, but you can't hide. Because ready or not, here I come. Oh, I'm telling you, somebody here is recognizing a truth of a desire. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, no. I was going to say that doesn't necessarily mean that what you want wants you to, because that's not always the case. But then I stopped myself because I'm looking at this Four of Wands and I'm looking at the Temperance card. And again, we're talking about being in harmony with the external world. And there's just something that needs to click into place here. I kind of want to... don't snitch on me. I'm going to get you one extra card because I really want to see if we can get something else for this tower. I'm getting, actually, as I'm shuffling and I'm zoning out to this card, you may be sleeping a lot lately. You might be dreaming. You might be having very significant dreams with this Four of Swords. But I'm thinking of Sleeping Beauty, and I'm thinking of something rattling you up, something awakening you. You might be awakening to your heart chakra in general, but you also might be awakening through a emotional connection. There's something that you're awakening to, and it may have to do with you being ready to opening up your heart chakra again after a significant time of healing. Can we get one for the Tower? We have the Knight of Pentacles. Yeah, there's something that is sort of appearing. We have the Star card. Oh my God, I'm going to take that because that's beautiful. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune underneath that. I laughed because when I said appearing, I heard like the way that it say it in Pokemon, like a wild star card appears and you see that it's something worth catching. It's something worth catching. You don't want to let this pass you by because otherwise you can run, but you can't hide. This is something very significant. So again, for a lot of you, this is going to be a very distinct passion that you have that wants to live out loud, whether that is a creative project, a calling, a talent. It doesn't have to become your career, but you can't live without this. And for others of you, this is a very significant friendship, platonic connection, or a very significant romantic connection. But in any case, like the cards that are coming out, this Tower makes it feel scary to you, but the energies that are coming out around it are extremely supportive and beautiful. So there's really nothing to be afraid of, but I think you're fearing a loss of freedom, a loss of safety. Like you're just afraid of being vulnerable here. This is some kind of awakening. Going back to the Page of Swords here, this is definitely some kind of awakening. What's going on for group 2? We have nurture. Give me one more. And surrender. Yep. We have nurture and surrender. At the bottom of the deck, we have listen. Listen, Linda. You're getting a lot of signs that it's okay to trust. The thing is that, you know, it might not necessarily be a confirmation of like, oh, it's okay for you to trust this person. That's not the point. It's not, the point of vulnerability is not you tearing your heart out of your chest and putting it on a platter and being like, here you go, I trust you with this. It's about you trusting yourself, that you will know if things change and become dangerous, if someone starts to show red flags, that you will then be able to make an adjustment and express yourself and also be able to pull back when you need to. It's about being able to trust yourself. However, at this point in time, with the Knight of Pentacles, with the Ace of Pentacles, there's an opportunity here that needs to be nurtured, and you can't nurture it by avoiding it. This is definitely something that is asking, because how do we nurture plants? With water. Water is significant of emotions. And so there is an emotional vulnerability that is being asked of you. And you may not technically be able to see where this is going to go, what this is going to shift into. But you have to surrender yourself to that and know that you are capable of trusting yourself based on the lessons that you have transmuted from the past, from healing from other situations that were probably somewhat unstable. Let's get you some advice. For group 2, what is an energy for group 2 to release, to let go of? Poet. That is so interesting, because I noticed some similarities but very different attitudes to group 1. And group 1 got this from this round deck. They got the Poet as a card of like, hey, you're receiving a lot of information, but you're not like reading it, you're not seeing it correctly. You see it, but you're avoiding it. And so Poet is all about the freedom of interpretation. And so you are kind of like, oh, there's a sign that's clearly guiding me towards this thing. It could also mean something else, could also mean the opposite, could be this, could be that. There's a lot of evasion taking place with Poet, because it's very much about, you know, things being up to interpretation and very much going with the flow based on your feelings in the moment of receiving a message. But you're probably being asked to kind of zoom out a little bit more and put them into context with one another. What is an energy for group 2 to embrace more of, to embody more of? We have gossip. Gossip is all about communication. It is about building trust. And I know that sounds a little bit odd, but you got to keep in mind these are archetype cards. So gossip is a social structure that allows us to build trust with people that are not our kin. That's sort of how gossip has evolved over time. Or evolutionary wise, that's why we gossip. It's in order to build alliances. And so that is something that you're struggling with trusting yourself to be vulnerable with others. And so it says awakens consideration for the feelings of others, honoring trust. And it's about communication, versus Poet is very much like, oh, it's about what I'm feeling, it's about what I'm doing. And when I'm receiving messages, I'm like, well, that could mean this, or it could mean something else. Oh, well, I guess we'll never know. And this is much more direct back and forth communication of, well, maybe we should figure out what it means by communicating with someone and seeing what they think, and then coming to some kind of consensus. Sorry, I have a sneeze building up, but it's not going to come out, I can tell. Okay, that just hurt my brain a little bit. So yeah, we're not so much looking at the shadow attribute because this is something that Spirit wants you to grow towards and embody more of. It's about building alliances here instead of being evasive. Okay, where are we at? Let's see. We did this one. Okay. Spirit, what's going on for group 2? We have blossoming. I was holding the deck upside down. That's why it's come out in reverse, which is totally fine. I won't take reversals in this deck anyways. Blossoming. Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. There's something that is trying to, the blossoming card connecting to the nurture card, connecting to this Knight of Pentacles card. That's a 3/3, by the way. There's something that, whatever. I'm just gonna be okay with this. Look at the colors. Actually, let me give you a close-up of this. There's something that wants to blossom for you, but you kind of have to allow it. You have to nurture it, right? It's kind of like the first buds of a flower, and you see the buds and you're like, oh no, I'm gonna stop watering it because there's the first bud of a flower. And it's like, what? That doesn't make sense. That's the whole reason why you have the plant to begin with. You want it to bud. But you might be thinking of, this makes me think of one of my favorite lyrics. One of my favorite lines by Gwen Stefani is born to blossom, bloom to perish. Born to blossom, bloom to perish. Yeah. Which is about the impermanence of life, of everything, right? Especially the impermanence of beauty. And when there's something in front of you where it's like, oh, this is beauty, you might immediately jump to the fact that as soon as it's done blooming, it's going to die. And that's just a risk that you have to take. Honestly, there's no way around it, because I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's not going to die. I'm a Scorpio. Sorry. Everything dies. Nothing is permanent. Whether that is your desire, whether that is your passion or somebody else's desire or a connection, eventually everything dies, but we do have that in common, and that sort of gives it impermanence at the same time, right? At least that's how I can sleep at night. I'm sorry, this took a turn. Let me try and get it back on track. But so you seem to be very focused on the fact, like, no, if I give this plant water, then the petals will open, and then as soon as it's bloomed, it's going to eventually die. And so you'd rather deny yourself the possibility of having seen something blossom than deal with its impending loss. And that's just not right. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to this opportunity. So sorry, babe, but you got to be a big, strong girl, big, strong, brave boy, and take that leap. Okay, let's get you some last advice. What is an energy that you are currently embodying? We have the lizard. Yeah, very lazy when it comes to this. I don't necessarily see lizards as lazy, but in this deck, for some reason, the lizard is always about like slowing down, and going hand in hand with this Four of Swords. I just feel like it's very calculated. It's very conservative with its energy. That's sort of how you're showing up right now. What is an energy for group 2 to embody more of? Did I call you group 1 before? I may have accidentally. What is an energy for group 2 to embody more of? The mouse card just came out for a second. We have crocodile. I'm going to take into account that the mouse card came out, because there is something about being very perceptive, and that goes hand in hand with this crocodile, and yet very different energies. So the mouse card might be sort of like an in-between energy. But with crocodile, we're talking about a readiness. Also here, there's a lot of colors going on in this one. First of all, the crocodile is coming out as a water energy, but its eye is yellow and green, right? The crocodile knows that it can defend itself if it needs to, but it also doesn't need to start shit for no reason. Again, we're getting green, heart chakra energy. We're also getting solar plexus. There's something about solar plexus energy. There's something about confidence in vulnerability and knowing that, also with the crocodile, I'm being connected again to the fact that this card, the heart, is in the water as well. And it's making me think of what I said, is it the Telltale Heart? That's the Edgar Allan Poe story, the Telltale Heart. But that is also making me think of, I never realized that, actually, now that I say it, that's kind of a correlation to, in Peter Pan, the crocodile that has the clock inside, and Hook freaks out whenever he hears the ticking, right? That makes him super anxious. Again, you can run, but you can't hide. The crocodile is gonna get you. Love is gonna find you. Passion is gonna find you. That's so funny. I mean, for me, not for you, sorry. It's good though. Like, yeah, this is hunting you down, but it's good energy, so calm down. But yeah, with the crocodile, I'm kind of feeling tempted. The second time in your reading that I'm feeling tempted to read from the booklet. So let's see. Number 2 with all the extras. Look at you being all extra. Where is it? There we go. I couldn't even find the water section. There it is. It's the first one in the water section. Resting, collecting energy, which is similar to the lizard, cooling off. The crocodile reminds us to step back from the external world and turn inward. Now is not the time for decisions, action, or discussion. The crocodile's mantra is wait. This doesn't mean lying around hoping life's challenges will disappear. The crocodile is much smarter than that. It means intentionally withdrawing, gathering our awareness, observing, and building energy. Fill up the vital reserves so that your next move comes from a place of wisdom and power. And also, much less from avoidance, because I think that's where you're at, right? You're avoiding, and so you might be retreating into apathy. You might be retreating into substances, and so that's what this is saying, to retreat from the material world, and because this is a water energy, getting more in touch with your emotions. So there are ways in which you can retreat, because you might be feeling that need to retreat, but you're just applying it in a way that is actually avoidant instead of facing what it is that you need to be facing, which has everything to do with how can I tune in with myself, with my emotions, so that I can make choices from a place of trusting myself to be able to navigate any future decisions. Again, very similar energy to group 1, but your attitude is very different. So interesting. So yeah, that's what I got for you. I think this really has a lot to do with you recognizing that it's time to avoid the emotional labor that it takes for you to establish trust in yourself and to transmute, again, the healing from the past so that you can make more exciting decisions moving forward, instead of avoiding, instead of repeating. So definitely huge heart expansion coming towards you, And you don't necessarily have to do a whole lot. The fact that we have the Tower card, that we have the Ace of Pentacles, I don't necessarily think you have to do a whole lot to initiate it. I think it's already been initiated, but you're avoiding it right now. And so in order to stop avoiding it, you don't necessarily have to go out of your way to confess something to someone or to declare, this is my passion and I'm going to follow it. But it's more about turning inward and recognizing, okay, why have I been avoiding this? How have I been avoiding this? And then making internal changes, and those will then automatically start aligning you with the external changes so that you can link up. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Oh my goodness, this got a little bit long. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that it resonates, that it's constructive. And if you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so only on my website. The link is in the description below. Other than that, I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading if you chose this lovely garnet flower. We're going to put this right up here so you know you're in the right place, and we're going to jump right into your reading. So we are asking, what the F is going on? So this can apply really to any area of your life, your overall life situation. This can apply to a connection. This can apply to your job. We are going to start off with 3 tarot cards to get your perspective on what is going on. And then we're going to get a couple more tarot cards to get spirit, God, universe, whatever you subscribe to, the divine perspective on what's going on. And then we'll get you some oracle cards to get you some guidance through this. So, spirit, for Group 3, what's going on? What the F is happening? What's going on? You're the first group I sang that for. All right, so this is your perspective. Oh no. Oh no. Ah! 6 of Pentacles is at the bottom of the deck. Knight of Swords. You're trying to will something. You're trying to will your way through something. You might be trying really hard to manifest a very particular outcome, or trying to manifest the opposite of an outcome. That's interesting. So the reason I say that is, for you, your perspective is you're facing a lot of obstacles, and you're trying to manifest some kind of harmony, some kind of balance for yourself. And yet all you're seeing is obstacles. You're trying to manifest help. You're trying to manifest support. You want the support of the universe, but to you, it feels like every time you ask for help, somehow things get worse. You're like, you're very... I'm definitely getting some anger here. There's some anger towards things feeling unfair. You're trying to manifest things to get easier for you. And yet every time you turn around, things get messed up. Again, this is your perspective, okay? We're going to get some more cards right now to see what the universe or spirit sees. But from your point of view, you're trying really hard to stay in control of your life or of a particular situation, but it's like you constantly have to fight tooth and nail to get your way. I am sensing immediately that there may be some control issues here, that you may be gripping too tight to certain outcomes or manifestations. At the same time, I think you might be gripping too tight to the process, because I'm getting the sense with this Tower, if that's what you're experiencing, if you're like, well, I'm trying to manifest things for myself and everything I touch just falls apart, it could be because you're manifesting certain things that things are falling apart, right? Because in order for your manifestations to really ground, the the foundation needs to be fixed. So that's kind of like what I'm seeing so far, but we'll see what Spirit has to say in a second. But I definitely get that you are being you feel like you're being antagonized by the outside world. And all you are trying to do is remain in control. I do think that there's a recognition here of so much chaos around you that you have already internalized and already realized, like, okay, well, I can only control myself. So I think you're already making strides in that regard, but there's still like this, it feels a little bit like you're offended. It feels a little bit like you're offended by the fact that things are so difficult for you at this time. Let's see. What is Spirit's perspective on what's going on? What the F is going on for group 3? We have the King of Wands. We have the Six of Swords. We have the Knave of Cups, which is the Page of Cups. What the hell? My card fell to the floor and I don't know where it went. Hello? Where'd you go? Okay, give me a second. I'm not gonna cut this out. You're just gonna hear me because I think it went under. Oh. It flew behind my chair. The Queen of Swords. We're gonna get one more. This is really interesting. There was some overlap in energies in group 1 and group 2, but group 2 had a very different attitude. And I'm seeing an overlap in energies here as well, almost you combining group 1 and group 2. In terms of the energies, that doesn't necessarily mean that the meaning is going to be the same. Yeah, but a lot of similar cards. It's interesting. And then we have the Queen of Wands at the bottom of the deck coming out again. But I do like that we have the Queen of Wands and then the King of Wands over here. We have the Wheel of Fortune, Queen of Swords, Page of Cups, Six of Swords. Oh, it was a car. I thought the cicadas like start, and I'm like, what? The cicadas are gone. Why am I hearing cicadas? But that was a car squeaking. Winter time. Anyways, okay, so from Spirit's point of view, you're being a little bit too radical here. You're being a little bit harsh with this Queen of Swords. But your intentions, your motivation is coming from the right place with the King of Wands. You are taking control of your life. You are moving on. I do feel like I'm getting a confirmation of what I had already sensed in terms of the things that you are manifesting require a lot of foundational changes. The things that you are manifesting require a lot of foundational changes. And so, yeah, we have the Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. This requires sacrifice. That's the problem here. And trust me, I know. Shh, calm down. I know how brutal sacrifice can be and how it can feel really unfair of like, how much more can I give? How much more can I lose? But it isn't that. There's a change in perspective necessary because it's not about how much more can you lose or how much more can you give. It's how much more can you gain. And in order to gain, you need to make room. And so that is where the sacrifice is coming from. And we're not necessarily talking about making room in a physical way. We're talking about making room in an emotional way. part of the overlap that I see here energetically with group 1 is that the Page of Cups has been coming out as a sign of emotional immaturity. Not trying to say that you are emotionally immature, but this very much connects to like the impatience and the frustration. And for you, I think particularly it has to do with feeling like the world is against you. The Six of Swords is indicating to me that you're already on your way to calmer waters. But the more that you feel antagonized, the more you carry that antagonistic feeling with you. I want to be very careful with my next words because I'm not trying to minimize very significant experiences. But with the Six of Swords and the Queen of Swords here, I'm almost getting a sense of PTSD, perhaps even what I think it's called CPTSD, complex. I think that's what it is. I'm not trying to diagnose anyone. It's just that came to my mind, and so I have to share what comes to my mind. But it could just, essentially, whether it is a metaphor or whether it is an actual experience that is accurate or that applies, it has to do with being very triggered, very sensitive because of very traumatic previous experiences. And so you see, it's kind of like the idea of feeling triggered by, war veterans can feel triggered by the sounds of fireworks, for example. And that's what I'm thinking of when I'm looking at this tower, of how you could have a tendency to become overly defensive when something triggers a certain nerve that was previously very much a wound, and you've been working towards, I don't even want to say healing, because healing, oftentimes we feel, when we use language around healing, it makes it feel like it's a linear journey and that you've started here and you're now here and you're trying to get to here. But that's not what this feels like. This feels like much less of a journey and much more of a transition. And that might just be semantics, but somebody here is definitely making a very sensitive transition. To be honest, somebody here might actually be transitioning when it comes to gender identity. I could see that very well, because we have the Queen of Wands, we have the King of Wands, but then we have the Queen of Wands again. There might be, and this Queen of Swords here, there might be some sort of, that's just going to be for very, very, very few, if not just one or two of you. But I do want to honor that, because I do see that here, if that applies, that there is some real sensitivity and almost like crisis management on your path of transitioning. Now, that can also just be a metaphor, so it still applies to anyone listening to this, because you should, if you're reading, or if you're listening to my readings, I expect you to have empathy and to be open-minded. And so I would hope that you have a basic understanding of the incredible intricacies, as far as you can, the incredible intricacies of that kind of transition, which is on an emotional basis, on an intellectual basis, on a hormonal basis, on a material basis. Like, that affects a lot, right? And so you can use that as a metaphor. It doesn't have to be that you are specifically medically transitioning. It can just be that you yourself are transitioning from one life to another. And that has a lot of steps involved. And that usually starts internally with mental recognition of, shit, something needs to change because who I am on the inside, who I want to be on the inside, does not match up with who I am on the outside or who the outside expects me to be. That then comes with this Queen of Swords has beheaded somebody here. That then comes with having to kill your darlings. For some reason that came through. That's a synchronicity for someone. But that comes with having to kill an old version of yourself. That comes with having to sacrifice who you thought you were going to be. Sacrifice the expectations of other people, of who other people see you to be, expect you to be. And so I think that you have made up your mind in changing something, and it's kind of like I think you're not giving yourself enough grace. I think you're very much focused on the antagonist, which is external circumstances, but you're not giving yourself enough grace for emotionally processing this transition, whatever this transition is. From the divine's perspective, these changes are taking place with the Wheel of Fortune. It takes time, though. You have set this into motion because of your desires, and you have decided to move on from something with the knowledge that it's going to be a very involved transition. But your sensitivity towards the outside world is showing a lack of grace for yourself. Oh, that's harsh. That feels harsh. Meaning you feeling like, oh my God, everything is against me, nothing is working, everything is falling apart, is actually you being very focused. Like I'm getting this feeling of, okay, this doesn't have to apply at all, but this is just a way for me to explain the energies. Imagine a scene where a child on the playground is somehow gets pushed and bumps its head and hurts itself. The mother comes running and is so agitated by the fact that her child was hurt that she just starts yelling at the other children. She starts yelling for the parents. Meanwhile, the child is on the ground crying and hurt. And the mom is so riled up that she is just focused on, getting justice for her child instead of tending to the child's needs. And the fact that this is coming through in that kind of intricate story is telling me that there is perhaps a need for you to refocus on your inner child. Because I feel like I see you very agitated towards the external. And that's coming from a defensive mechanism, and that's probably coming from a place of, just so many shifts taking place, and you're kind of like yelling at everything to like stop, like, but at the same time, you're the one that's initiating it. You're the one that says, I want these changes to take place. But it is very disruptive, and there's room for both. There's room for you to be anxious and to feel scared, and also to want these changes to take place, to have initiated them. Because that could be an experience that you have too, that, if you try to complain to a friend, that they might tell you, this is what you wanted, why are you complaining? You're allowed to feel both, okay? I don't want to take that away from you. But I do think that it's important for you to recognize that you are being triggered for a reason, and that instead of fighting the triggers, you need to turn inward and protect yourself and nurture yourself, because the triggers aren't going to stop. So it's about how you can protect yourself in a way that makes you more resilient towards the triggers. We have Libra energy, we have the third house, and then we have Neptune energy. Transcending your immediate community, but also you're transcending relationships in some shape or form. And that came through a few times in terms of, outgrowing certain expectations. Libra is all about relationships. The third house is all about connective tissue. We're talking about your immediate community, siblings. We're also talking about your inner thought processes and communication. And then Neptune is about transcendence, and it is about holding strong towards a vision. With the third house, like I said, I like to see the third house as connective tissue, because it is really about like building pathways between one and another. It's about elementary learning. And so you're learning how to transcend when it comes to communication, how to transcend, how to properly express the vision that you're working towards. Because that's the thing, it isn't everybody else's, and I know this is going to be really harsh, but it isn't everybody else's responsibility to be tapped into your vision. It is your responsibility to be tapped into your vision and to know when a sacrifice is worth it and when it isn't worth it. Nobody else has to understand why you are embarking on this transition. For a lot of you, this transition has to do with really, really leaving behind an old version of yourself that was much less focused on your own desires, on your own needs. We're going to get one card from this deck. This is a Tarot and Oracle deck combined. I read it a little bit differently. We're going to get one singular card. What is going on for group 3? We have the Moon. Subconscious, indecision, critique, sensitivity. Sensitivity for sure. At the bottom of the deck, we have Neptune for the second time. Neptune. Neptune is about transcendence, and transcendence in a way, I think this is kind of coming back to the gender thing. But again, that can just be a metaphor. It doesn't have to. It can just be about the constraints of society, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be a gender transition. But Neptune is very fluid. Neptune is a holistic energy. It's not confined by labels. And same goes, obviously, Neptune is a modern ruler of Pisces. And so with this Moon card, it's about following your intuition. And I think that's what you're doing. That's what you're naturally trying to manifest something for yourself that has very much to do with a vision for yourself where the world loves you as much as you love the world. A vision for yourself where the world supports you as much as you're able to give to it. You want reciprocity. You want balance. You want harmony. But in order to get there, you're fighting so many battles and so many triggers because there's all this gunk to get through that keeps you from embodying that and living in that reciprocity. And that comes again with a lot of sacrifice. And that also comes with, because I think manifesting came through very strongly. And manifesting doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing manifestation methods or rituals or anything like that. It's just having a will for something to be a certain way, right? And so I'm getting this feeling of, I'm thinking of like a toy. There are these toys where you can stretch them and they always come back to shape. They're usually like little action figure toys, right? Little monsters. I've gotten a few from my nephews where it's like a red little monster and you can pull it and squeeze it and it will be deformed for, a couple seconds, but then eventually it goes back into shape. And I get the sense that there are aspects of your life where you're like, well, if I just squeeze it into place, then it should work. But no, it's always going to unfold back into its original shape because it has to choose to change. Meaning, if you have a friend that you think is your ride or die, but then you go through this very significant transition of your ego, of your self-identity, and you lose that friend, because your shape has changed and they don't know how to connect, you think, well, if I just fight hard enough, I can, you know, malleable. That's the word I was going for, but that doesn't work there. I can kind of force it into a certain shape, and then that's fine. We can make it work that way. And what's coming through is that that's not going to work, and that's where sacrifice is going to be necessary, to recognize where you cannot shape. You can only shape yourself. And I think you're really working hard on trying to shape the world around you, and that is only possible to a certain degree in the choices that you make and the things that you give energy to. But you cannot shape or force other people or situations into recognizing you. All you can do is show up and make choices that allow you to connect with people that do recognize you. And those are the kind of sacrifices that I'm talking about. Let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, what is going on here for group 3? What is going on for group 3? We have the orphan. Oh, I'm sorry. I know that this is probably a very painful process, and you probably feel very isolated and alone here. And we have the maiden. That's interesting. I haven't had this deck for very long, so I am slowly kind of going through some of the cards that I feel less intuitively connected to. So I am going to take a look at this one, the maiden right here. The maiden archetype is the epitome of innocent arousal, naive sensuality, and precarious purity. She is compelling and addictive because of her flawless and youthful glow. She's the first archetype in the trifecta of Maiden Mother Crone, and rightfully so, because she has oh so much to learn. The maiden is perfectly positioned for trouble to come her way and subject her to a challenge that leads to the next phase of womanhood. Exactly. See, I'm telling you, gender is very important here in some shape or form. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you are being called to transition your gender. Please only take what resonates. But this can have to do with you stepping up within your gender identity. So whether you identify as a man, that would be you stepping up into a more mature version of your manhood. If you identify as a woman, that would be you stepping into a more mature version of your womanhood. But in any case, it's about recognizing here with the orphan going to maiden, it feels like a rapid progression. What else does this say? The maiden represents the side of us that is riveted and curious, drawn to shadowy forests, dark nights, and taking just one taste of poisonous fruit. Her magic is edgy and includes both shame and delight. Let yourself fall down the rabbit hole, young one. That's so cute. But that makes sense in context of the maiden, mother, and crone. This is very lustful for life and curious in exploring yourself, and that definitely is coming through. That's what you're being drawn to do more of, to be less sort of agitated. It's getting really dark right now, by the way, but we're gonna power through. To be less agitated by the world and to get more in tune with yourself in that process. Again, I think you are really manifesting for others to come find you. So you may be in this attitude of like feeling a little bit like you need saving, and yet at the same time, like internally you might feel that, and then externally always being met with having to do it yourself, and then that can lead towards resentment and isolation. And so the maiden is reminding you to stay curious and to stay feisty. Feisty is definitely coming through. I mean, that's coming through in your energy regardless, with the King of Wands, the Queen of Wands coming out twice, the Queen of Swords, very feisty with all of this energy. Absolutely. I don't need to, you have strong like Aries energy, Gemini energy, Sagittarius energy, very feisty to begin with, but I think what's coming through is that there's a time for being feisty, there's a time for being angry, and then there is a time to recognize when that anger is actually concealing something much more vulnerable, which is this solitude and the need for emotional recognition. And you have to be the first to give yourself that. Nobody else can give you that before you have given it to yourself. Emotional recognition. And I'm saying that also because this Queen of Swords is directly looking at her, and it's kind of like this very compassionate, like I'm just getting the sense of really needing to address your own inner child or your own inner maiden. What's going on for group 3? One more. We have journey and freedom. So notice how the journey has ups and downs. It is a journey towards freedom. And it's interesting that we've been talking a lot. I've been talking about the word journey and a transition. And I think this is really about accepting yourself more openly, more freely. And in order to do that, sometimes the road takes you inward, sometimes it takes you outward, sometimes it takes you downward, sometimes it takes you upward, but it's always triggering. It doesn't matter. It's always triggering. And I'm sorry. It's rough. I'm thinking now of that song, It's a Jungle Out There, which is the theme song of Monk. That might be a synchronicity for someone. But how's that song go? It's a jungle out there. All this something and confusion everywhere. People don't seem to care. I admit I don't know. The words are not really coming to me, but it's basically saying like, it's crazy out there. It is. And I'm sorry. But that is life. And I'm not trying to make it seem like you're being overly sensitive, because I don't think you are, but I think you're being overly defensive towards extra. Again, I think you probably have very good reason, but the thing is that you are initiating these triggers, and you're initiating them so that you can become stronger and more resilient towards them. And so I'm not going to baby you. And I feel I'm really sorry, because this is not very natural energy for me right now. The way that I'm talking is not natural. I'm a Libra Mars. This is not natural for me, but this is coming through strongly from spirit, because this is the energy that you're being met with by the world. The world, it constantly is telling you, I'm not going to baby you. I'm not going to hold your hand through this. That's because you are constantly being pushed towards yourself. You're constantly being pushed back into yourself, because you need to be the one that babies you. That's totally okay. It's okay to baby yourself. You're supposed to. Oh, that felt so uncomfortable for me. I'm sorry. Can we get some advice for group 3? What is an energy? Also, look at these pinks here all across the board. What is an energy for group 3 to release, to let go of? Oof. We have slave. Giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices. What is an energy for group 3 to embody more of, to grow towards? We have athlete. This is rough. This is rough, because on one hand, I want to tell you life isn't always an uphill battle. Life isn't always a struggle. But it's hard, because there's no point in me telling you that, because you are in the middle of it. So that doesn't matter that someday it's going to be over. You're in it right now, and it feels like it's everywhere, and it feels like it's everything, and it feels like it's all at once. The only respite you have, the only retreat that you have, is going to go inward and taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself, so that you can have the stamina to prevail. You have everything you need to succeed here, and you have the willpower, And so that's why I also feel like Spirit is like, we don't need to baby you, because we know what you're capable of. And trust me, I know how frustrating it is to have somebody say like, oh, you're capable, so you don't need support because you're capable. That's not the point. You are manifesting a life where you will receive support, where you will receive connection, where you will be part of a whole, part of a community. But in order to properly manifest that, you have to go through this process, because the more that you are being forced to turn inward, the more you will authentically show up and therefore be able to receive that reciprocity when the time comes. Because otherwise, with the slave card, you're just putting yourself in a position where you only address things until they're good enough. Good enough. This is good enough. This is not who I am authentically, but this is good enough. This is enough. This makes me feel a little bit less comfortable about hiding who I am. No. This is an extreme purging, and that is going to require sacrifice. That has come through so strongly. This is a Rocky kind of, right? Rocky Balboa kind of sacrifice level here. It says dedication to transcending physical limits, including handicaps, development of personal willpower and strength of spirit. Okay. What's going on for group 3? We're almost done before it gets too dark in here. We have boundaries, and look at these colors again. Pinks. At the bottom of the deck, we have release. You are facing a lot of, again, this is your perspective, right? To you, it feels like everything is against you. Okay, let it be against you. Pull back your energy and focus on, what do I need to do to take care of myself right now? Establish those boundaries. If those boundaries put you in a position to lose people, you don't need those people, because you need to establish boundaries in order for you to feel okay, like you can manage, like you can cope. Because otherwise you're just going to be so anxious and so wound up that you drag out those feelings of PTSD. This is really a need to prioritize your emotional well-being, because that's what's going to help you build the stamina to be able to face those triggers. And nobody else is going to be able to do that for you. Yeah, you can engage in things like this that can kind of, it can kind of motivate you along the way. Of course, the ideal thing would be to engage with things such as talk therapy, behavioral therapy, because it can give you guidance along the way. But it's just guidance. You're still the one taking the steps. You're still the one taking the action. You're still the one implementing changed behaviors. And so ultimately, it always comes back to you. And so the attitude of like, well, nobody's giving me anything, nobody's doing anything for me. I understand the desire to fall into that, but that's how it is for all of us at the end of the day. Yeah, some people may have more supporting families, more supporting friends, but at the end of the day, more support is more cushioning. More cushioning is softening the impact of life, and therefore not feeling the need to implement any changes, and then not transitioning fully. And your desire more than anything is to fully transition, no matter what this transition entails. You want this transition. The degree to which you are being triggered is exact to the degree to which you want this. Okay, we're going to get you 2 last cards. We're going to get, what is an energy that group 3 is most embodying at this time? We have the Crow. Yeah, This is this feeling of energy being outside of yourself, right? What you're seeking being outside of yourself and trying to get it by any means necessary. Also, crows are very highly intelligent, highly intuitive, but also very misunderstood. And what is an energy that group 3 should embody more of? We have the tiger. Okay, I want to read that one for you. If I can find it, there it is. Lunar Force. Lunar Force. See, I knew I had to read it for a reason. Ease in darkness, feminine energy. So strong in your reading. I knew I had to read this for a reason. Feminine energy is so strong. And listen, if you identify as a man, if you are male presenting, that doesn't mean you don't have feminine energy, right? We all have a mixture of both. And we need both in order to feel complete, to feel whole. It says, the tiger hunts at night, at one with the silence, fearing nothing. This card reminds us to take in the wild darkness, to allow the lunar forces to soothe and heal our spirits. Sensuality, the maiden, sensuality, receptivity, and devotion are all heightened in the midnight hour, and the tiger takes advantage of these boons. Spend some time in silence this evening, drinking in the potent calm. There is nothing to fear in the stillness except the awakening of your own power. Absolutely. I think your journey may have begun with trying to find some kind of way of receiving more external power, and the journey ultimately always leads back to you, which is telling you that your power, your source of power, comes from the inside. Lots of yellows here, which is all about solar plexus energy. It's like you already have access to it. You're just putting your focus externally, and you need to put the focus internally. And then that helps you crack the code. All right, I'm going to leave it there. This message got long, and it's getting dark. So I'm going to wrap it up. That is what I got for you. I really hope that it resonates. I hope it's constructive. If you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so only on my website. The link is in the description below. Other than that, I do hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.